To get started, can you briefly introduce yourself and how did you get to where you are right now, your career, your background, and STEM as well?
Okay, my name is Oluwatosin Obisesan, and my STEM journey actually started in Nigeria, which is my home country. Um, Before long, I think um, I'd like to give you like a very drastic story, but I felt like my journey into science was kind of predetermined. People say that, oh, you're top of the class, and they just assume you're going to the science class. Luckily for me, I did enjoy science. So that push and drive of like my secondary school, which is like high school teachers, wasn't like off trajectory for me because it was also something that I liked. I liked just the curious nature of being in the science field. I like the whole idea of observing and then, drawing inference from observation and running with it and creating theories. So that built up like my high school experience. And naturally, if you're from Nigeria, from a Nigeria home, you would understand that if you're in science class, your parents expect you to either be a doctor or an engineer. So the goal of like, oh, she has to study medicine. And I feel like that was my father's dream. Hopefully he gets the doctor someday. Maybe not the medical doctor, but some doctor. So initially I wanted to go into medicine, but then I got into like the pre-med lane of biochemistry. And it was then that I began to shape what I really wanted to do in STEM as it is. Even then I don't know if I knew the whole idea of STEM as STEM. I just knew, oh, science, like this is what we do. And then I got admitted into Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria, and I got admitted to study biochemistry. And at first, because they've drilled this, oh, you want to become a medical doctor, and you watch all these medical series, and you're like, I really want to wear the lab coat, I want to wear scrubs, and then well, I'm wearing lab coat now too. So I got I got admitted, and my school has the structure for biochemistry where you do a lot of core physical courses. You do core chemistry, physics, mathematics at the I think the first 2 to 3 years before you started doing chemistry, and before you started going into biochemistry core courses. So a lot of people found it very difficult because most people wanted to study medicine, they were used to biological sciences and not like the physical sciences. And yes, it was challenging, but if it shaped my idea of approaching medical science from understanding of the physical science. Because then I began to see beyond just, coming from the mindset of, oh, patients, medicine, and I want to treat, I want to like, yeah, I want to find a cure to something, and all the big problems. That approach made me see things at the molecular level. So I started seeing proteins, humans, as just atoms, just chemical interactions, just organic chemistry. So that intriguing, that just brought back that young, curious mind in me and saying, also, how do this work? We're saying you use a drug and this drug is causing this effect. What is actually happening? Like, is it like the drug is going to your liver and then squishing it together? You know, and then it now started making sense to like, oh, protein ligand interaction. It's all just chemistry. It's all physics. So that just, and I'm like, okay, I think I want to go. Let me borrow this language from like the tech people. I think I want to go to the back end of this and not the front end. So because this is just what I enjoy more, understanding what is going wrong, finding cure and all of that. And then that just took me off, and I was like, okay, I'm going this line. I'm going to grad school, and then that led me here a lot of issues between me and my father who wanted me to go to med school. But eventually came around. And then finally I got admitted to study, and I got admission into a chemistry department, but to do biological chemistry course, which was like, okay, beautiful. But because I had like good background in chemistry and I enjoyed the chemistry approach to biology, because I just feel like it just gives some more depth to like the biology that we are doing, and that's how I got to grad school. Don't ask me if it's a good decision or not. Yeah.
But so far, how are you enjoying the journey? How do you
It,
think the journey
so
been?
far, it's a fulfilling journey.
Mhm.
I'm glad that I've not lost purpose of why I'm here. And I think that the big picture that I just shared with you is something that's grounded me. I had days that I wanted to give up and just say, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I wake up the next morning and then I pick it back up. My friend would always say, it's okay to give up. Just make sure when you wake up the next morning, you pick it up. So you can keep giving up daily. And that's just to explain also that the journey is not just a straight line, especially with graduate school. If you're on the PhD track, it's your journey. It's there's no manual. It's not like undergrad that it's dictated. You have 4 years, and then this is how you have to go about it. No, you're on the research, and like I used to say, the graduate school journey is not just the research about your topic. You're also on the research about yourself, because you will find yourself on that journey. You will find your weaknesses, your limits. So beyond even growing as a researcher, as a scientist, I've seen myself also grow as an individual. I've seen myself tackle projects, the way I think about problems, all just those soft skills that they don't shout at you, and you don't see them evidently, but you look at yourself, you look at how far you've grown, and you're like, I think I'm a better person overall. And I'm glad that I actually chose this journey. I'm glad I decided to go through this fire. I'm excited to see what finally turns out from the process. So,
Okay, great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing.
thank you.
And what would you say are some of the goals you hope to achieve in the nearest future in regards to biochemistry and just your journey?
The big picture goal, like if I'm allowed to dream and maybe I have a wish, would be to be able to get a drug to the market, a drug that can actually change people's lives. And I also think that the way that I came in, being that I wanted to become a medical doctor, still makes the patient to be at the forefront of what I do. And I think that from time to time, as graduate students or as researchers, sometimes we get sucked into that bubble of publication, research, promotions if you're an a tenure track professor. And all this makes us lose sight of why we are doing what we are doing, especially if you're in the drug discovery space. The reason you're doing that is because of the patient. Now, you may not get there, but having that at the back of your mind, I think, influences the quality of research that you do, because you know that even if I am not getting the cure, I am putting out an information that would probably help another scientist. So that helps the rigor of your research, that helps the quality of your research, what you do, how you approach it. It even defines the kind of research question you are asking. Because then you're not just doing research because I want to churn out a publication. You're asking yourself the big question of, how is this going to help? What problem am I solving? So there's a problem, right? You're going for me with a solution. Like, what is the problem? And when you find out that I have some information that is of value that would help somebody, sometimes it doesn't have to be, yes, I found a big drug. Sometimes it's just this target does this or behaves in this way. That is some information. Then you don't sit on it and say, oh, okay, maybe it's not good enough. But because of that perspective with which you're coming on, you're able to like drive that out and say, we'll put that out there. Who knows who will pick it up from there? Just because you know that that's the big picture. So if I were to go back to your question and not to go off track, that would be the goal. But beyond that is also the goal to contribute, and whatever that little contribution that I can give, if I can move the needle a little bit, the ultimate goal is that we have a world where cancer becomes something like flu or COVID, that you don't have it and think, okay, this is the end. It's just a matter of time. You have it and think, oh, I just need to get to the doctor and all. And that would be beautiful. That because if you really follow cancer patient story, particularly in Africa, in Nigeria, there aren't so many success stories. At least in Western world, you hear a lot of remission, you hear a lot of, and then the fear is will they come back? Because that's also a big fear. Will they come back? But when you follow so many stories, my sister just had a friend who she lost to breast cancer very young. I actually met this person while she was in school. They were both students. So it's no longer, oh, I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm okay. Unfortunately, that's not the story anymore. Because she's young, she's my sister, the age mate, they went to school together. Very hardworking, promise. When she was in school, she was doing business. And I used to admire her, like, this is somebody that was trying to make a way for herself. You would think if everything was all right in the universe, such a person at certain time in her life should, you know, be able to enjoy life. And unfortunately, we lost her to cancer. So this is a real problem, right? And even if I personally or my research work personally may not get directly to like a drug that people can use for some cancer or whatever, but at least that we can move the needle, we can improve it, we can shift the narrative. And also as a Nigerian, that what I do can have significance. I mean direct impact in Nigeria where I'm from, and that's one of the biggest goal. I think about like how do we help where we are from? How do we at least, balance the scale a little bit? A lot has been done in cancer. A lot of like improvement in the treatment of cancer from what it used to be. But unfortunately, it's not really reflecting that much back in our continent. So, is there a way that we can make that better? At least at this time. So that's one of like the goals and the drive, and of course, getting my PhD. That's good. Yeah.
All right. Well, sorry to hear about your sister's friend. Sorry about that. My condolences. But yeah, that's so wonderful. That's definitely a very profound. That's very profound what you just said. And yeah, that is important. Like, even if you're not the one that's going to discover the drug, at least moving the needle, if I was borrow your
Mhm.
language, moving the needle towards that direction that it would actually be discovered. There are going to be things that are done to better the lives of people. And it's not just about getting tenure as a professor or just getting carried away with just the title of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, wonderful. And in your journey, has there been any mentors or role models who have played a significant role in shaping your career, and how did they inspire you?
Yes, actually, I've had mentors, role models, a lot. You grow up looking. I think remembering this, I remembered when you said role model. I remembered a debate competition that I had in my elementary school graduation, and the title was "Women's Education Ends in the Kitchen." Yeah, that's. I mean, it's a lot. When I think about the title, I'm like, teachers that came up with that title. And of course, I argued against that, and I argued like my life depended on it. Like, how dare you say women's education enter the kitchen? And I remember then quoting like Dora Kilui and Okoje Wiela. That was even like even before like Okoje Wiela that became like a big thing, and then the female president in Liberia, and all those things like how dare you say women's education enter the kitchen? We won the debate, by the way, but that's to say that even from that early stage, I've had women who have like modeled um, my shape on like, oh, you can achieve the unachievable, you can go to this length. But I've always said this, not proudly, and I don't know if it's a reflection of the society. Most of my mentors, I don't think I've had a direct male mentor all through my life, which at some point I had to come to the consciousness of um, wow, you've never really had a female. Sorry, that's what I meant. I've never had a female mentor throughout my journey, and but when I say journey, I'm talking about academic journey. Now, in other lives, like family and all of that, there are females, female figures in my life that have shaped who I've become, but in my career journey, it's all been male. So I think that the very first person that it may sound insignificant, but I feel like he shaped who I was my premises teacher, which was in elementary school. So he was the person that he saw what I could do, but he wasn't satisfied with it. So he kept pushing for more. And that just gave me that like challenge, and that made me love mathematics. So he would ask us to come to school, I think around 7 a.m. School would resume 8 o'clock. We'll come 1 hour before school. And then what we had was mental drill. And then you start throwing out mathematics question at you, and you time you and you have to solve those questions.
Mm.
It wasn't enough that you would come first in class. No, you had to do all those things, and then it would take us for competition. And the fear of disappointing him was greater than there's some things that you do, and it's like, oh, you did well, but I'm like, how do I tell Mr. Bello? I did it. And then because my school had different branches, so where the annex was the headquarter, and when we were going to do like the common entrance examination, my greatest fear was I had to come top in all the schools, because then Mr. Bello would be disappointed if I didn't come top. And then he would feel, of course I knew I was going to pass, that was not the problem. It was just I couldn't let someone from another branch of the school come. Then he feels like, oh, his student did not. And then when I came, he was like, he shouted in the whole school. You would think it was my father. He was waiting for the result. The moment the result came out, I said it. I said, and everybody was like, what is this? Is this man okay? So that man really, really shaped. And then when I got to secondary school, it was just like, I cannot disappoint this man. It was just more like, he has trained his best student. I have to go out there to whatever high school I'm in and continue. And I still tell the story today about this man. He's late now. He was a Ghanaian. How he just shaped my love for sciences. I mean, it was just mathematics, and but just that logical reasoning part of me. He was one of the people that built it early on. And then I had great teachers, but the other key significant mentor that I had was also my undergraduate advisor. And I say this because these other people have helped me along the way, but these people played roles that defined my direction. That elementary school teacher played a role that made me love science, made me embrace the critical nature of myself. Then my undergraduate advisor gave me a lot of opportunities that were not open to undergrads. He literally unpicked me from the pool and made me. I don't know why, because I didn't even know him. He was the HOD for my department, and then it just saw me. And typically, even in my department, then you would not know me because I'll just go on my own. We had this fear that if they knew you, then your CGPA would come down because, because so you just wanted to fly under the radar and then graduate and you'll be fine. So it just unpicked me to do research in his lab. It was my very first like real research experience. And then when the master students, the PhD students are going for workshops and all of that, he would insist that I join. And he did all of this because doing research in Nigeria is expensive. I didn't have to pay anything. So he would pay for my transportation. Because if I'd had to pay for those workshops, I probably wouldn't have been able to afford them. He would pay for those workshops. Then I got introduced to molecular biology techniques. And those things were like big deal. Like, oh, now I'm working with genes. It's different from what you're reading in. And you think about genes when they say genetic studies and you're doing all this, you're reading it. You're seeing like in your head the double helix structure, and then you're doing experiment. All you have is like a liquid test. I'm like, you mean I'm just supposed to imagine that this is it? But it also gave me that experience, and then in the techniques in the protocol, you cannot relate the protocols like this step is the amplification step. Remember what you learned in the study. Oh, this step is this. Like, oh, okay. At least I can go back to school and tell my mates that what you did, I have actually done it. So there was some form of disappointment because I guess my imagination ran a little bit wilder, only to realize it's just liquids that you're extracting and you're just going to assume that there's DNA in this little whitish. Okay, I trust you. If you tell me there's DNA, there's DNA. Whatever you say. And then I remembered on one of those trips, he called me at the hotel where we were, had a lobby while we were waiting to be assigned rooms. Then we went to Ondo State, one school in Ondo State, Akungba. So that school had a professor who trained in Germany and came back to. So he came back with some grants. He had some equipment that they don't have anywhere else in Nigeria. So then he was telling me, I remember this conversation. Unfortunately, he's late now, and we lost him to cancer, leukemia actually. And he was just telling me about how um, I shouldn't settle for less. And he was like, "You have a lot of potential. I don't want to see you remain in Nigeria." That was what he said. He said, "Immediately you're done, you cannot afford to end up in a bank." Like he was so specific because those are tragedy. Because if you have a good grade, you probably go into the banking system in Nigeria and all of that. Maybe not teaching, or best you get a graduate assistantship position. Yeah, and it just made me realize that there's much more for you, and I cannot forget that conversation. And it's like whatever you need, if you need recommendation letters, if you need all of that, ask me for it. He didn't even know so much about the United States. He knew more about Canada. So he was just telling me about Canada and all of that. And just that experience, just that opportunity. Then he was also really insistent on workshops, conferences you have to attend. Things that our eyes were not really open to. He was making sure that the students that he was mentoring, and I feel like I had just that one-on-one mentoring opportunity with him. So that was helpful. Then on my I don't know, when we talk about mentors, we typically talk about people that have gone ahead of us. But I like to also bring the perspective of like sometimes you get mentorship from your peers, and it's not something we look. I feel like key even in my graduate school journey, like key defining moments when I'm stuck on research. Sometimes it's just my friend in another school that does something that I don't do that I'm just trying to do that I call. We're colleagues, but just that process. Sometimes also you have some friends that just mentor you and inspire you be the way they move about life and all. I didn't know that I could come in directly from my undergrad for a PhD program, but for a colleague. And we were talking, and it was like, oh, definitely. I'm like, that's definitely not possible. Maybe if you're like an exceptional student, I was like, it is possible. And then he gave the breakdown and said, "Oh, all you have to do this exams." Wait, that it's your my exams. We'll study, and just that knowledge, just that because he was exposed, he had opportunities for that this thing. So even before I graduated, I knew immediately. I had a timeline, and which is something a lot of people did not have. I see people come later into grad school and they were like, they wish they knew this thing. So every time anybody says that to me, I just am like, I feel like I should call Abidin again and tell him thank you for that conversation that we had. Because I probably would have just gone, tried some research institute in Nigeria and then maybe tried to get a master's. But I already had my map. I knew during my NYC year, which is like a year that we do the national service in Nigeria, I was going to use that for my application. And I mean, God was helpful also. So I did that, and then I got admission, and then I got to grad school. So those people like played key roles in like directing my direction or my vision on how I wanted to. And then coming to grad school, I think my advisor, my mentor was also really important. He's a great mentor. He's also a male, which is why I said I don't have a female. And I just thought about it. So when I was choosing my committee members, I actually deliberately looked for a female. And in my department, we only have currently now we have two females, some of which are not in my field. So I had to like pick my out of department committee member to be a female. I'm just like, I need to. I must have a female mentor. So it became a conscious effort for me to find somebody. And yes, it's interesting. In the whole chemistry department, it's just two the females. And they don't even do what I do. One is doing materials, and the other she does biophysics, which is not really directed to what I do. So I had to like go to like the cancer biology department to find somebody. And did that. But my advisor is also like a key. He has played a key role in my direction. And people say it's also one of the advice that I got when I was coming into grad school that the school you go to is important, the career choice you pick, but what is more important in a PhD journey is your research advisor, and it could shape the direction of how you go. And then I was glad that I made a good choice. And this is somebody that is just like, he's also, I mean, he's not an American, but he came in from Ghana. He's a Ghanaian. And then he has this direction of like Africans, we can do better. We do shouldn't lose sight of the good picture. A lot of us come in for a better life because we want to like do better. And then at the sight of like the least comfort, we may lose that picture. So it's always like, and then he says something like Africans, we have a lot of rough edges that he needs to cut off. And then sometimes it feels like it's hard on us. I'm like, this man, the domestic students do some things and get away with it. You don't do it if you are. But I see it's also coming from the part of like he just wants to shape and change. If you're in this journey, then there should be a reason. You shouldn't lose the focus and the goal. So far, those are like key people that I feel like have mentored me and helped me to where I am today.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing. This is just looking back based on what you just said. It's like at each significant point there was a mentor, and I like what you said about mentoring from your peers as well. I think I heard, I can't remember what the term I heard for that was, but that is also very important. Sometimes we overlook it because it's our peers. What do you mean by mentoring from our peers?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. And just before we round up the interview, just wanted to ask, do you have any advice or encouragement that to you would like to share for upcoming females in STEM or those who are considering STEM careers?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of experiences that advice I would like to give, but just to shorten it, I would probably want to share my experience coming into grad school, and it's just that experience of thinking that I am not enough. Like they call it imposter syndrome, which is weird because if somebody had ever told me that I would ever have imposter syndrome, I don't know. Because all my life it's been about like, oh, if you put me in a pool of people, for some reason I won't be in the in the bottom average. I would want to be top average. So it's always been like, and people around me have also made me aware of this. So there's that level of self-esteem that, of course, there's some humility because you've gone through some things, you've met people that you feel are smarter than you. But I know like my capability. So never in a million years would I have thought that I would probably get somewhere and feel less of myself. And then that happened. I got into grad school and was like, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe these people are better than me. And it wasn't even because of like academic um prowess or they are actually better academically. It was just about how they carried themselves and the amount of confidence they had in themselves, which I came to realize. So it's about the way they talk, and then you're scared to voice your view, even if you're actually right. And then you're scared to, you have presentations, you're like, okay, what if I say something wrong? These people seem to know better. They seem to have had all of that. But it turned out that it was mostly all in my head. And it was just a lot of like me being too scared to fail that I wasn't even trying. And when I was able to break out of that, I grew to like, even in not like competitions, but um, as a teaching assistant, I became a lead teaching assistant. I won multiple awards, I won multiple fellowships. So I then looked back and was like, so what's wrong with me? Because these are not people that were so why did I ever think that I wasn't good enough because somebody was out there, doing better and improving? Is that why? So I think you have someone coming on next.
Yes. Right. Hi, Dr. James.
So I'll
Sorry,
just
that's- sorry about that. We're starting up our previous interview.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. We'll start in a few minutes, please.
All right. No problem.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so the advice if I would give to any female, it's like do not be too scared of what you can achieve or feeling that you wouldn't even try. And it is in putting yourself out there that you become a better person. It isn't. So it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not be good enough. And that's okay. Give yourself grace. Allow yourself to fail. Allow yourself to improve. And then over time, you just see how far or how better of a person that you're going to be. Doesn't mean you won't. I didn't fail or make mistakes or say something that was wrong and went back and beat myself up because now I feel like everybody saying me in the department would think I'm dumb. And I'm like, how did I even see that? How couldn't I have figured this out? And I'm like, oh my God, now everybody thinks I'm dumb. So, but nowadays I have come to realize that even if I say it was my reasoning at that time, I'm like, and I'm very willing to say, oh, I wasn't thinking about it that way. Thank you for sharing that. And that's okay. Doesn't mean that I am not smart, So, for women coming out there, you want to try something, you want to try graduate school, and you're like, okay, maybe I can't get in. Why not try? You know, there's a big competition and there's something like that. Just try. Even if you don't win, you got the experience. Even if you don't, get that thing, just don't be the one limiting you. So many things in Africa are limiting you already. That's the truth. So do not add your own because that's the greatest thing that can limit you. I mean, there are other things, but if you are adding yourself, then you are really not helping. You're just tipping the scale against yourself. So there's so many things limiting you. And so what will happen? Yes, you will get it. So what? You are not going to be any worse than if you didn't try at all. Maybe financially, if you require some financial resources, but money can always be made, But it's what you gain in the process is even a whole lot better. So just don't limit yourself. Don't think you can do it enough because I feel like that's the greatest block that can put a barrier on how far you can go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing and thank you so much for your time today. It's been wonderful and your insights was really great. Thank you so
Yeah.